Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Decisions Lunch and Learn. I'm going to be your host on this Wednesday, Gregory Goldston from the Decisions Training Team. Let's go over our stuff on the right here. Top right, Decisions Support YouTube channel. Highly recommend checking it out. We have our previous Lunch and Learns there. We have different videos that are covering different topics, such as use cases for the sayings XML, covering different sayings that you can alter or manipulate in different ways to accomplish more functionality within decisions. We have, of course, the Excel steps. I brought those up a few times. We have the file storage settings, which I highly recommend taking a look at if you want to store files in the most efficient way inside of your decision server. We have steps going over integrations, how to create those, and then what sort of integrations you can create from that integration, like queries, table integrations, procedure integrations, all that sort of stuff is covered in that. So highly recommend taking a look there. Below that, we have the Decision Solutions Marketplace. This is a location where you can bring in different accelerator projects inside of your own environment for free, by the way. You're not paying any cost for these. So you bring them in, you can utilize them within your project in different ways, pull components from them, reverse engineer them if you want to understand how to do one of the particular functionalities in your own project. It's just a great resource to take a look at. So highly recommend checking that out. And then below that, we have the Decisions Product Roadmap Review. And what this is it is a series of meetings that gives you sneak peeks at the stuff that's coming down the pipeline within our Decisions product. So you can sign up for that at decisions.com/events. So with all that being said, I think it is time to go over to our decisions environment now and start answering your questions. So give me just a moment while I navigate over there. I'm going to stop sharing here, and then I'm going to start sharing this screen right over here. All right, cool. Can you all see it? Yes, you can. All right, nice. All right, we already have 3 Q&A things lined up, so I'm going to bring up my people. I'm going to bring up the questions, and we are going to get started with Helmet. Question number 1. What is the preferred or ideal way to send daily notification reminders for an assignment? Okay. Helmet, I'm going to unmute you and we're going to talk about this because there are quite a few different ways that you can do that. You should be able to talk now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Cool. So yeah, pretty much as it says, one of the ways that I've seen this done in some of our older applications is by basically setting a late date or a late date flow, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I think you have the ability in that late date flow to obviously, send the notification. But then I think what you can also do is update that assignment late date, increment it by a day so that then that late date flow triggers again the next day. Um, I've seen some problems occur with this. I didn't know if it was the ideal way to do this or if there was a configuration I was missing. So I just thought I'd ask.
So that actually is a good approach to handling it. I don't know about your logic specifically as far as the increment goes, but with the assignment setup over here, when you create an assignment over here under assignment setup, you go to edit. And then a little bit lower, you're going to have these options to specify start date,
Right.
warn date, late date, escalate date, expiration date, right? So you can specify when that foreign assignment warn date is. You can run those flows that would be able to change that warn date, change that late date, specify an escalation date, right? Specify an expiration date. And you can run flows when each one of those hits that particular event, right? So
Right.
if I were to specify a warn date, and I'm just going to do constant date time for this one, but of course you can use different logic for this and map it from the flow.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have your assignment start type, which you can make a shared flow or private flow. I'll pick shared flow for this one. Actually, not for a start type, for late.
We
There
use
we
a
go.
we use a private flow for the start flow type if it makes any difference, but yeah.
Do you use start flow type or for late flow type?
So for the start flow type, currently we use a private flow and it triggers and it sends out an initial notification email with some buttons that have the assignment URL there so we can do the whole, you know, respond via email functionality.
Hmm.
Um, but what I'd like then is obviously to have basically consider it late after one day if they haven't responded, and then trigger that late flow. And I'd like for that same notification that was in that private flow to be the same notification that goes out the next day, right? We're just, they have like we're trying to get these to VPs, and if they don't get it every day, then they don't click it. So
I got you. Yeah, I have a few questions as far as your setup here is concerned then, because that doesn't seem like a bad approach as far as sending out that particular notification and that late date, right? But how are you updating this particular specify warn date or late date? Are you updating it inside of the assignment entity table, or are you just do
so
tracking that somewhere else?
so currently we don't have a warn for this specific assignment in question, we only have that start flow. And so what their ask
Oh,
is to then, okay, well, we get that notification, but then a lot of people will claim, I don't know where the email went or whatever. So we'd like to then again basically send that notification again and again and again once every day until they do the approval. So I thought, okay, maybe I'll have to utilize a late flow or a late date, flow that then actually updates the late date and kind of does all that.
so one way would be to do that late date flow right there. You run that, and then this would be your notification when it hits that late date. It would alter
Mhm.
the late date inside of the entity assignment table itself,
Sure.
so that way that would get recognized. Another way that you could do this would be with a scheduled job that checks for assignments that are marked as current and not
Yeah.
completed. And then you have the list of who that's assigned to inside of your entity assignment table itself. I'll go to that right now. Let me give a visual on that.
Yeah.
So if I go over, oh, right. If I go over here, right click query editor, and then I'm going to do assignment.
I mean, maybe I can save you some work because it's a small enhancement on top of this, so we're not really interested in doing a whole nother scheduled flow, but I definitely see where you're going with that. Um,
Right, because this wouldn't take too much, and you could put it in its own separate queue, so it's not interrupting anything else, right?
oh, okay.
So you would have is check for anything that is assigned, right, to make
Hmm.
sure that you're only sending out to people that have these assignments. Is current is set to true, and is completed is set to false,
Hmm.
right? So those would be your fetch criteria. You don't need to run a query; you can just run a fetch entities, right? Because this is inside of the
Right,
table.
right.
And then where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? All assignments right here. I believe it's all assignments, or where is it? I actually don't see the other one. It might be all assignments. I can confirm that, but I'm pretty sure all assignments is where it specifies the list of accounts or emails that have been assigned that, so you can send out that notification to that person with a for each type logic.
Right, right. And there's no way to like create some kind of ability to re-trigger that private flow because resending this email every single day to these VPs is an option, but a lot of times it's basically just a phone call that says, "Hey, I don't know where this email is," and then it'd be nice to just resend them that notification. So is that even a possibility? Alternatively, it's kind of a
To
second question. I
resend,
apologize. Yeah.
no, no, you're good. Do you mean like resend manually or just keep incrementing it so they
Yeah,
keep getting it every
manually,
day?
basically manually. Yeah,
Oh
where
yeah, you can send a notification manually. I don't know if trying to do that through the start date would be the most advisable, because now you're introducing a human element to this got sent out on this date. Did you change this assignment late date, right? I don't know if that would be the best way to do that, but you could create an action, right, on any dashboard that just sends an indication to, all right, um, find all of this person's assignments, right? Run a filter on your fetch
uh-huh.
entities. Here are all the assignments they have. Are any of them in the late stage or any of them current but not completed? All right, send out a notification for those. You could
But
create.
the only I guess the only problem with that is the notification I want to send out, I want it to have those buttons that they can interact with, right? And for those buttons to work, it needs the assignment URL. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the assignment URL is really only available as a quote unquote, local/global variable when it's in one of those warn flows, late flows, or like start flows.
I see what you're saying. Gotcha. So you're not trying to send just a notification. You're trying to resend the assignment out on
Basically,
command.
yeah, basically.
I
Would you have to
see.
like close it and then recreate it and do all that, you think?
Let me think about that. what would be the best way to do
Because if it's
this?
not simple, then I'll just go with the updating the late date in the late flow, because I know how to do that. I just was wondering if it was something I just didn't know about or missed.
No, no. Let me think on that real quick because I get what you're trying to do. You're trying to have a manual process that actually resends them that assignment itself, right? So
Because, like, for example, if you have an assignment that goes out and you change the person it's assigned to, I think there's an option where you can say, "Hey, resend that notification," or resend that start flow, right?
right,
So I was
right,
like, "Oh, I wonder if that's an ability somewhere."
right. And then you can have always reuse assignment, right? That would keep the same assignment ID, or if it's the same assignee, then you can only keep it. You can choose that
Yeah.
right here. Um, Resend email. Yeah,
So
that's what you're talking about right
so
here,
you
right?
could, yeah, maybe you could even theoretically create a flow that then like just changes the person it's assigned to the same person it was before, and kind of trick it into sending that email again.
That might work. I'm not 100% sure if it recognizes it by
But a
change in that way
possibility,
or
yeah.
if it's just any sort of like update to that entity. I know that you could trigger that manually by the unassign and reassign interactions
Mm-hmm.
um, rather than just change assignment because under here you would do that with integration, internal services, call decisions, internal service, go over here, go to the assignment service, and then the method name that you normally do is I think it's change. I think that's what's called change assignment, right? So that changes the assignment ID, right? And then who it's going to get sent to over here, right? The account IDs, group IDs for this particular thing. But if you were to go another route from add assignment and remove assignment, hold on, let me bring this up again. So add add assignment for user and then write user identifier. That's going to tell you whether it's email or um, identifier type. That's what I'm looking for. This will tell you if
Right.
it's email or account ID. And then there is a remove assignment that operates very similarly. If you were to do it this way, then it would trigger that because you are technically updating the assignment each time, right? At one point, it
Yeah.
doesn't have an assignee and then it gets sent to another assignee. So doing
Understood.
those steps in succession, I would do remove assignment, then add assignment first. And that would trigger that
Gotcha.
rather than change assignment.
Okay. Nice. But that original idea I had, that's a fully possible way to do it as well, with updating the late date.
Yeah, I believe that would function if you're fetching the late date from something else, as long as it's getting updated on the entity, right? You're doing like some sort of save entity update rather than just
And by
updating it
entity,
in
you mean
some
the assignment
external.
entity?
Yes, the
Yes.
assignment
Yeah. Okay.
entity, because it
So,
tracks
yep.
that. Yes.
Right. Right. Okay. Yeah. No, I think that answers my question.
Cool, cool.
Thank you.
Glad to hear it. All right. So with that being said, I can read the next question from Jeff, which says, is there a way to add custom properties to a message envelope when publishing an Azure Service Bus message to a topic? These properties can be used to filter message for topic subscriptions. Give me a moment. My main screen just froze, so let me fix that. Okay, this should... Hello? Hold on, it didn't like whatever I did. Okay, y'all should be able to see my screen again, and I'm going to allow you to talk. All right, so what you're trying to do is you're trying to add a custom property to that message envelope whenever you're using some sort of Azure message queue. So let's go over here under administration features. I don't have Azure Service Bus set up right now. Um, which service bus did you utilize for that? It's not RabbitMQ, right? Like you use something else.
No, it's Azure Service Bus is the name of the Q product.
Oh, okay, gotcha, gotcha.
Yeah. And you can
Um,
you can so the answer to this might be that you don't support topics.
I'm not sure. In all honesty, that's not a question I know the answer to off the bat, but I know who to ask about that, and I can get that information for you as
Okay.
far as whether we support those custom properties or not. Because Your goal is to add a topic, right? To add the topic property to that service bus. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the way it works is for topics, it's a little different than a standard queue because you can subscribe to a topic based on different properties or variables. And one way you can do that is to add custom properties to the message envelope, and then on your Azure subscription configuration, you would say if that property has this value, then this this process is going to consume it, basically.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah, let me look into that. I don't know a lot about the message queue part of this, so I can research that and I get back to you about that because honestly, I don't have enough information to say, oh, let me set this up and test this right now, you know. But
okay,
yeah, I will absolutely get back to you on that question, Jeff. So
yeah, and I have asked this before, but it was a couple of versions back, and topics were new and it wasn't supported yet. So I was just looking to see.
what version did you ask that for, if you recall?
I think it was version 6. We're on version 8 now.
Version 6. Okay, gotcha. I know there have been some updates to the message queues even recently in version 9, but I don't recall them involving topics specifically. So I will ask about that.
Okay.
I can pull up, actually, let me pull up something here real quick. Let me just move this out of the way.
Also, I don't see your screen. I just see black.
Oh, no, really? Hold on. Let's try this again. Okay, so when it cuts that off. How's that?
There you go.
All right, cool. All right, yeah, let me also I think Vitali had something he wanted to add to this particular topic as well. Also, anytime I reshare my screen, it gets rid of my Q&A and the list of participants. Let me pull that up real quick. All right, Vitali, you had something you wanted to add to that Azure Service Queue information?
Yeah, Jeff. So a long time ago, when I was on 6 or 7, I guess, I had the same issue. And what I've done, I just used SDK, and it was simple creating a module for that. And it didn't support topics, so I've just used SDK for that.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, and we do have an SDK module, loaded into decisions. We could add that too.
It's not going to be hard because, well, the hardest part is to kind of push those settings into decision settings, but it's not hard enough. Basically, you just plug in Azure library.
Yeah. So I guess I was just asking, I was sort of hoping maybe that there was a new step or a property on the step I could.
As far as I know, there is not.
Okay.
I'll look into that and see because yeah, we are a bit past version 8 now. We have made some updates to message queues for the past couple of versions, so I'll check if any of them involve that topic.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Will do, yeah. All right. I got a few questions here. Let me allow you to talk. All right. What you got?
Hey, got a couple of things. One, I think we just went to version 9.13 last night, and I think there's an issue with the drop-down boxes. If you want to pull up a quick form, and I can show you what's going
Issue with a
on.
drop-down box. Okay.
Yeah. So now, see how it's. Go ahead and make that get rid of the column at the right. Just make it one big column across the page.
Sure.
Yeah. There you go. Now, make that drop down, go into the drop down box and put the label to the left.
With the label to the left.
Yeah. The label
Oh,
placement.
okay. I gotcha.
See that?
Oh, interesting.
The drop down box when the label's to the left or the right does not expand to the size of the grid.
No, it does not. Interesting. It has a fixed size. I
Yeah.
can move it along that, but
Yeah,
it's not letting
you
me.
can change the labels, the label size and it'll move it. But it seems like the drop down box itself is a fixed size and it will not go any bigger than that. It'll go smaller, but it won't go
Interesting.
bigger.
It won't go
That
bigger
just
whenever it's to
happened
the
because
left.
I happened to be working on some forms that had those in it, and I was like, "What the heck just happened this morning?" So it might be something with the flex grids that are new.
Yeah, that was exactly where my thought went to. Is there's probably something that was added for Flex and it just didn't get captured
Yeah.
properly. Does it have to do with, hold on, because there was a new feature added involving, where'd it go? Anytime you select a complex type for the drop down, it allows for that descriptor. And I wonder if it's kind of like a shadow property from that. I'll show you what I'm talking about in a moment. Let me go to the account type because that's complex. Display field will be email address. And then I'm going to show a list item descriptor. Yeah, this truncation. That's what I was curious if it had anything to do with that, but it doesn't look like that's affecting it. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good catch.
Yeah, just thought I'd point that out.
Appreciate it.
I have a couple of other little things. In the recent versions, I haven't noticed this in the release notes, but did you know the flow variables that you can bring into each flow? You know, the standard flow variables that are there.
The flow variables you can bring into each flow. Are you talking about
Yeah.
inputs?
No, yeah, the input. So go to the data explorer over there.
Yeah.
And those flow data. Sorry, the flow data.
Mhm.
Sorry. Did that get updated recently with more values? Because that current there's like a count at the top there. I think there's like a count, current account information. See that current account information there?
Yes.
Was that always been there?
That I believe has been there along with initiating account, right? You can specify the current account for that context or initiating account.
Okay, so my question is on that current account there.
Mm-hmm.
Does that, you know how when you have an end flow and it switches you back to a system,
The system context, right?
Right, on the current stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There was another variable. There wasn't just current account and initiating. There was another variable, like account name.
Perhaps they changed the name of it because those are the two. There was current account and there was initiating account.
And I know we
account,
use initiating account a lot if we do an end flow, initiating account will still have your email in it. But it's not foolproof. It doesn't seem to always have your email in it. I don't know.
Right, because you're technically running it from the system context, and sometimes it doesn't know how to fetch that as soon as you hit something like an end form, right? And then it's running that in the background. Or a what is it? Start linked flow async. That's another one that can do it.
Yeah. What we're writing error handling routines. The reason I'm saying this, we're writing error handling routines that need a reliable way to see who's sitting behind this, who's logged in right now, and depend because in an error handling routine, you don't know what threw the error. It could have been an async. It could have been a end form, after an end form or whatever. So we're just looking for a reliable way to see who's sitting at that computer right now, who's logged in. And I thought there was another field there that I hadn't recognized before. Can you close up current account?
Yes.
And initiating, if that's open, it's not open yet.
Yeah, they're not open. These are just.
I guess I don't. Initiating user email. Okay. All right. I guess not. All right. But all right. We'll just have to work around. I thought I saw. Oh, what's that portal email address? That one.
Portal email address.
See it down at the bottom there?
Oh, interesting. No, you're right. I do not recognize
I hadn't noticed that before. And I was wondering, is that going to be consistent?
Let me ask. Like I mentioned, I'm usually the one that kind of gets filtered. Like I filter through these and I figure out what the new stuff is coming. I was never informed about this portal email address.
I'm just curious about that. I mean, we could do some testing, but it's kind of hard to test in all scenarios. So I just like the official, yes, this always has, whoever logged into the portal's email address in it.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, if you're trying to do error handling, the most reliable thing to capture that initiating user account is honestly just a create data step, like to pass it in, and then you have a variable to work with. Because you're not, once the context gets changed, you can just fetch from there.
Well, yeah. Yeah, the issue with error handling is it can be tripped at any point. So you don't really have a chance, you know. Yeah,
Right.
we would have to capture it and pull it in and all that stuff. So I mean, we have some workarounds right now, but it'd be nice just to know that yes, that always has whoever signed in, that has their email there.
To my knowledge, I'm pretty sure both of these are designed to actually still switch to system if it ever were to put the flow into an asynchronous manner. I'm pretty sure.
What about that portal one down at the
I'll
bottom?
ask about Portal. I haven't heard of that one before.
Yeah, that's one that was the one I was like, that's new. I hadn't seen that. Okay.
Yeah, I will absolutely ask about that. I'm not sure why that didn't come up on my radar, so I will figure out how long that's been there.
Okay. So I don't know if we can go over this now, but we have a requirement now. Basically, all of our forms have to be responsive as well as, you know, browser ready.
Okay.
And when I'm reading the documentation, it looks like you have to have two forms, one built for browsers and tablets and one built for mobile. Does the Flex grids help with that? Do they eliminate that?
Okay. The Flex grid absolutely does help with that.
That's
for
what
example,
I figured, but
yeah, no, absolutely. So here, I'll go into this right now. So I built our simple whatchamacallit purchase request form in the Flex grid layout. And I actually moved this over here just so it would always be at the end, but you can change that to whatever your requirements are, right? Here's how Flex grid is going to function. When you have the properties, you're going to have a set number of columns that are going to be default units for how many spaces these can take up, all right?
Okay.
And then you can have a height either be fixed or you can change it to be flexible depending on if you want that to expand when more controls are added. You specify a minimum and a maximum when you have flexible. I've got set to fixed for this one right here. I allow wrap, which means that I'm going to allow these to get rearranged based upon the resolution of this particular form control.
Gotcha.
And then we have justify content, which determines, do I want in each individual row, do I want all the items pushed to the left, right? Do I want them centered? Do I want them spaced evenly? Do I want the space around each control evenly, which is slightly different? So spaced evenly says, okay, I want there to be 1 pixel between the middle, for example, and 1 pixel at the end and 1 pixel at the right. Space around means that each control gets the same set of cushion around it. So 1 pixel left, 1 pixel right. And then this control gets 1 pixel left, 1 pixel right. So technically there are 2 pixels in the middle, right? But each control has its own same amount of cushion. And then space between works very similarly as space evenly, except it pushes the first item to the start, the last item to the end, and then it fits the spacing between there. And those start and end always are pushed to the outskirts of that row.
Okay.
Yep. And then
okay.
Yeah, but let me show you exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, this is the first time seeing this like demonstrated, really. I haven't seen this yet. So this is really cool. So this is going to help.
Yep. And then you have within each row, if you want them centered, right? So I've got them centered right now, but if I do at the top, you're going to see these 3 controls move up a little bit.
Right.
Yep. So those all kind of get pushed up there. I can push them to the bottom of what each row would have. I can try and stretch them out. You can see departments designed to stretch out a little bit wider, right, to fill that. And then we have a baseline one. Each individual form control has its own baseline, and it tries to align that baseline with that imaginary center line of that row. Gotcha. All right. Yeah, so I'm just going to do top for now. And then this one determines whether I want all the rows starting from the beginning, starting from the end, if I want them centered and spaced out from there. And then our space evenly, space around follow the exact same logic as this space evenly, space around, except vertically now.
Cool. So how do I demonstrate what this is going to look like on a mobile platform?
I'll show you. I don't have a mobile thing running real quick, but I'll show you how this would run so you can see this, right? So
Right.
mobile can come in all sorts of shapes
Right, right.
and sizes, right? When I move this around, it's going to rearrange those controls to fit that. I
Right.
have mine set up so that there is a minimum pixel width of 100 for each of these. So you
Right.
have to have enough space for that to run, and then you have your submit request at the bottom. Or I can stretch it out, right, and have each of those fill up those spaces. Now,
Gotcha.
the way that you do that, and I want to make this clear as well, because I think this is where some of the confusion has come in, at least from initial demos, is that I set my width type here. If I set it to column, this is always going to take up as many columns as I specify of those 12 units, which is fine, but it
Right.
also means that because you're changing it to 12 units, right? You're changing the pixels, but it's still 12 units across. These don't necessarily get rearranged with that.
Right.
Right. The pros of the column is that it allows you to better control where you want controls to show up when you're using stuff like visibility rules, right? If I want to show or hide a control, I know exactly where that show or hidden control will be and how many columns it will take up and push the other controls along instead of in a pixel manner. But with flexible, I set all these to a base width of 200. The minimum is 100, so I don't let them go below that, and the max is 400. That's what allows you to get your flex type layout, is when you start combining flexible or fixed width in conjunction with your columns over here.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So this is going to take some playing around with just see how all this actually works and stuff.
Right,
with
yeah,
the
there's
different
definitely a little bit of a
settings.
learning curve. I'm currently
Yeah.
working on content for it, so that way it's easy to understand, but that's not out yet.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That'll be helpful when that comes out. But yeah, I'll just have to start playing with this. It looks like it's going to fit the bill. Now, when you're taking a form and you're creating it for a desktop and you want it to be mobile, is there anything else I need to be worried about besides just, looking at the forms, how it's, is there any settings I have to do to make sure that it's going to show up? Like if I give them a link, is there anything does that same link work on a browser? And if it's called from a mobile platform too?
It should still function. The one thing that I would be careful about is if you are doing specifically like you're using mobile settings, right? So you're going over here, drop down settings, and then where is it? Portal settings, mobile. Yeah, use more mobile portal on tablet, right? And that affects how pages and stuff are going to be viewed. When you're designing forms specifically for mobile, some form controls are not supported in this mobile format, right? So that doesn't mean they can't be displayed from a mobile tablet, but if you use what's called the mobile portal, then you can't use those controls on those forms.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's just for the mobile portal, but if you just have it as a link, and it'll automatically just make your form, that is, look like, how it, according to the flex grid, how you've got it set up.
Right, right. Yeah, it's going to take a little bit of playing around with that, like you mentioned. But yes, that is that is one of the highlights and how the flex layout should function in order to handle those different resolutions.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was because before the flex forms, right, you had to do 2 separate forms, correct?
Yes. Yeah, you would do 2 separate forms designed for whatever that particular layout was, mobile. Yeah. And then Flex should give you that option. You keep in mind as well, I want to make this clear. Flex layout can be a container type, and it can also be a drag on layout. So you can create combinations with Flex and other layouts.
Right, right. Yeah, like you could have a grid layout there and just have one section of the grid as flex, right?
Right. So what I've done here is I've actually created a grid layout with 12 flex columns. So that way it's always this size, no matter what this gets changed to, right? This always has the same layout. So my submit request is always at the bottom right, no matter what happens with these.
Okay. Right, right, right. Okay. 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 I'll just have to play with it and get real familiar with this, but this looks like it's going to fit the bill because we're definitely, they want us to create all of our forms to be mobile responsive as well. So, that's going to save us a ton if we can get if we get really good with these flex layouts.
Right. It seems like a lot at first, but a lot of these have a lot of overlap and they're pretty, once you understand how they work, it's pretty
Yeah.
intuitive to start creating stuff with them.
Yeah, yeah. Kind of reminds me of when I first started working with forms itself. It took a while to get all the containers and grids and what you could do to make your forms look exactly the way you wanted them. It took a while to get that straight, but once you did, now it's pretty easy to get a form to look exactly how I want it to look.
Mm.
All right, cool. Thanks. That I'll just have to do some, playing around with those.
Absolutely. I'll post this luncheon will get posted by the end of today as well, so you'll be able to review what we've talked about here and how this functions.
Cool. Thank you.
Of course. All right. I will answer that. And then Grant, I see you were talking about the same problem as far as the assignments and having to use a scheduled job for that. Yeah. The scheduled job would allow for that notification to get sent out. And the reason I even recommend scheduled jobs in the first place is because it runs on a background queue. You're not interrupting any of your other forms with that. You have a thread job in its own queue that handles that without interfering with anything else. So Marvin, let's see. You've got a question. Was it? I know James has a question about sizing for drop-down lists for version 9.13. There's also an issue when setting the height in the edit button at the bottom. You can't seem to size it to match the other input controls. Here, let me let you talk. I'm not quite sure I'm understanding what that issue is.
I was just trying to mimic what James was doing, and I put a drop-down list.
Mm-hmm.
I like one of your original forms, where you have the two columns and, each row is a 30 pixel height.
Uh-huh.
I added a drop down, just like you had done before. And the text is small, but then the drop down was much taller than the 30 pixels typically.
Interesting.
This was not in a flex grid, just like a regular form.
Right. I'll go back to that real quick because we did that over here. So assignment. So
It's almost like that one. Well, make sure that one is only in one of those rows.
oh, you're talking about like this right here where it's too big.
And then when I tried to expand the label up or pull that down, if you put another, because I had a form that already had fields on it, and I added this one, that drop down, the height of that drop down does not match the 30 pixels.
So let me make sure I understand what you're saying.
You might have to add another.
So I've got something here in front of it. I've got something here after it. And then I'm clicking on this one. I'm dragging it down, right?
Yeah, it might be easier to add another column to see it because your little markers at the end of the row are hard to see.
I gotcha. Okay.
Maybe just move those around so they're not so close together. Now you don't have to pull them apart.
All right.
You can keep them in one.
So like this, I've got a space between each of these.
And make that department tall enough that you can see the whole box.
All right.
Now, look at the height of that drop down versus the amount input box. Those are not the same size.
No, they're not. Yeah, the drop down box got bigger because it got pushed to this flex layout thing over here. Hold on.
But
it's change this.
This is not quote flex layout. This is just a standard form.
Right. So this height got altered and it's not the same height as the drop down right here.
Right. If you change that height, that's the height for the text.
Right.
And so I just, trying to fix it, I went into the edit bottom down at the bottom where the sizing, where you mark sizing in tabs, tried to play around in there. And that didn't help either.
Let me try something real quick here. Let's try line height, altering that. What does that do? That's not really doing anything. And then vertical alignment. What's the gap? Is that between the...
That's like gap between rows.
Oh, wait, hold on.
Or is
This-
that?
No, this is the gap for the
No, that-
actual label. So if I do
Okay,
this,
that's
it starts
true.
pushing that down.
Mm,
Yeah, because these are the label properties, right? So this is the
yeah,
gap between
that's
the label
true.
and the control. Yeah, what's that? I think 12 maybe will get us to about the right height.
Yeah.
Pretty close, pretty close.
But then, yeah, and then you have to start hacking away to try to make it match stuff you already had done. So it's going to be interesting to.
Yeah, they did change that. It looks like the default height. So you can get it back to the same height, but that's interesting.
All right. So change the gap.
Yep, and the label properties, right? So the label
Right,
that gets
in the
attached to it.
label properties, and go down to the bottom just a second and
Sure.
click edit.
Edit where?
Keep going. It's in the
Over here, size and tabs.
yeah.
Okay.
That height of 53, I had
Mhm.
changed it to 60 to quote mimic the typical. And I've always also noticed you always have to click that checkbox to force it to work. And on set max size. And then, and yeah, and you see that functionality is just to make it re-render. But
Mhm.
see what happened now, and now it's real tiny. Why that's the case, just because you set a max height, you know. Oh,
Right.
that's on max width. Okay.
Yeah, so that would be closer to 400 if we're covering that.
Yeah. But anyway, I just usually use that checkbox to force it to re-render and then turn it back off.
Okay, okay.
But okay, so what did you set that to again in the edit?
In the edit over here, I set it to 400 because I know
Oh
that
no,
my
on the height.
the height I did it to 130, but that's not gonna really matter because the height's 60
we
here.
set it to 60. The
Yep.
height for 60.
Yeah,
Okay.
height 60.
Height is 60, and then on the label properties,
I did a gap of 12. That looks like
Gap
it's
of
pretty
12.
close. You may want to do 13.
yeah, or at least okay, just some kind of an idea to recreate what we want, or turn the label off and add your own label.
That's absolutely possible, and that would get you the same
basically
height.
break it apart.
Yeah, that would
like the
absolutely
original.
function.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, cool.
Thank you, sir.
And then James, yes, there is a resend assignment on internal services. Going back to one of our earlier questions with resending the assignment out, there should be an internal service that you can call if you're trying to resend that assignment to someone over here. So assignment notifications, all steps, integration, internal services, go to the assignment services, and then there should be resend.
I think you
And
already
assignment.
answered that. You were showing him. I was just commenting on that as you guys were talking through it before you actually started showing him how to do that, where you remove the user and resend it.
Yeah.
That'll work. That does essentially the same thing. I don't know that there's an actual resend, but what you did should work.
Right, yeah, with the unassigned, reassign, remove user
Right,
from
right.
assignment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's all. I was
All right. So, Sean, I'm gonna let you talk. You have two questions. You have a CSV file and you attach them to an email, but they have the same name, data.csv. You tried the step rename file, but it caused an exception. Could not find the file /ops/decision/data.csv at the system input output file move string source name decisions framework. How do you resolve this rename file issue? Here, let me let you talk. Are you just hold on? So you're looking for this, right? This rename file here.
Yes.
Okay. So the only way that this works is by getting the file path to wherever it is located. So that is to say, if you're trying to rename something that's a file data that's in the flow, this isn't going to work, because what you're actually doing is you are renaming a file somewhere inside of the folder path on the local machine upon which your decisions is installed. It is not renaming file data. Is that making sense or not quite?
Not quite, but if it is this not the right step, so how can I do it? My things is I have to curate to get the result to attach to the email. I need to curate both in the end it is saved as the data.csv. The name is the same, and both can
Okay.
attach to the email, but a little bit confusion for the end user.
Right.
So I want to change the name.
Yeah. No, that's pretty straightforward right here. You can have something that has a rule right here. We'll show that right over here. So let me drop this real quick. Drop this, drop this. Okay. So you can have a rule over here that would check the file name, right? So I can create a rule over here. Actually, I don't even need that. I just need a string match, right? I just need string equals. I don't even need to create a rule. So we're going to delete that. String equals case insensitive. Pass that in. You pass in one file data name in here, right? I'm putting in constants, but you would pass in your one. So this would be file name, right? And then this would also be file name. And these are the same, right? So you have two files with file names. If they're equal to each other, then you can change one of those file names with a quick create data step on your file data type. I'm assuming you're passing this in as file data. Is that correct?
Yes, it's file
Okay.
data. Yeah.
Okay, we'll call the CSV file. It's in as file data right here. And file data is going to have a few properties in it, right? So if I build data, there's contents, there's file name, there's ID, and there's tag, right? So we pass in a CSV file, and in our file name, we'll change it to something else. I'll just call this file2. You can have a different process that changes the file name. It doesn't have to be this way. But what you're saying is that if these are equal, we're going to change file name to, we'll pass in the contents from whatever our file was. It can be flow data, right? You pass in your CSV file contents, ID and tag. And then what you do is you change the value of that original CSV file that you passed in. So I'm going to create one and set up input data. So my CSV, this is going to be file data, just so we can see what's going on right here. Save that, exit, pass this in from flow data. So now I have my CSV contents, right? And now I have flow data, my CSV ID, and then flow data, my CSV tag. So what's going to happen is my CSV is going to get updated with a new file name, right? And then I'm going to change the value of my CSV so that it gets updated with that new file name. Now you can attach both of them to the email, the original CSV that you had in your attachments, right? Let's build an array. There's going to be one of them. There's going to be the other one. Let's say that this is attachment 1 and then attachment 2. We'll just take from my CSV that now has a different name. You don't need to use a change file name step in order to update the name of this.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think this definitely solved the problem.
Yep. If this does not work, I would reach out to support because of this error. It looks like it's trying to fetch with that step that you're using before from your optical drive. So highly recommend reaching out to them if that is still giving you issues.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. All right. And what was your second question?
The second question is, okay, still send the email to the client. So during the development stage, so I use my own email address. Then I push the change to the QA. Then I need to change that the receipts receptor list to my QA team. So I need to manually check. So I don't want to do, then going to the product, I need to change to the client one. So can I use some constant user? So it's a setup there. So every time I push the flow, I don't need to update that constant. So I go to the project and use manager configuration variable and constant. I set up something, but I can't. But in this stream, so in this flow, I can't access that constant.
Okay. You should be able to access that constant. I'm not sure why, but what you would do, as far as setting that up, is manage configuration, variables, constants. I'll create one right here. This is going to be of the type string. This will be email list. So actually, let's see if we can make it a string list. There we go. All right. And then we're going to have test account 1 at so-and-so, test account 2 at so-and-so, right? Don't need a description. I don't need a toolbox category. I can keep it a subcategory. I'll create that. Now it's available in my project constants. When I go into the flow over here now, from which I'm trying to fetch this information, I would go to the flow data, and you're going to see project constants under here. Under project constants, here are the Wednesday LNL constant data, and then we pass in that string. Now, this would function as far as what you're talking about with getting that configuration and passing it in. But something that's really important to note is that if you do it this way, when you send this project to your repository, right, you commit it to the repository and then pull it to QA, you're still going to have these dev values as your variables inside of your project, right? You're still going to have these values, which are going to be your dev values. So a way to handle this is by creating a dependent project, all right? I'm going to call this my constants project. Do I just have the number pi, please? That would be great. It's a good constant to use. Okay, I don't know what's going on. I'll just use this instead. And then this will be my constants project. Create this real quick. What we can do here is we can establish our own variables. All right. So let's say that this is the rich string. Where do we go? Where's our string list? There we go. All right. So let's call this dev and dev2. All right. So these are both of our emails. We create them. We have dev and dev2. Oh, I guess I need a email list. Okay. So email list contains dev and dev2, right? And it's in my constants project. What I can do then is I can define a dependency on the project that I have right here by going to configuration, dependencies, manage, and then I'm going to declare a dependency on the constants project. Now, I can update this project anytime that I want, this Wednesday LNL project, and I can use whatever constants are from my dependent project over here. So instead of picking from these, I'll go to project constants. I'll click on my constants project instead and pick this emailing list. And the reason I would want to do this is because I can control the version of the constants project in any environment, right? I can go to the constants, I can check out into QA and change what that constants project has in QA versus dev versus prod. And I don't have to worry about making updates to this list by mistake with any updates I create in my Wednesday LNL project. So those constants have their own check-in process, right? For which branch is checked into which version, which environment. And your Wednesday LNL can keep getting updated without affecting that. Is that making some sense?
Okay, I need more time to understand that, but yeah, I think the solution you give me is really helpful. Yeah, I will watch the playback again.
And I'll be glad to reach out to you about this as well. We actually, hold on, let's see. Jasmine, are you in here still?
Yeah, I'm here.
Cool. There is an entire YouTube video that discusses this exact process, handling project variables and constants like in deployment. I don't remember the exact name of the video, but it is highly recommend that watch for covering this. It's going to allow for all the information I've said, but in a more, it's going to be explained better, and it's going to have some visuals to go with it. So highly recommend checking that out. And if we don't get that posted, I'll make sure that I send that video to you directly.
Okay, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Okay, and then the last question that we have in our Q&A is from Robin, asking about how do I use the query editor to search and locate an account from a field on a form? So I have some questions for you on that, but first let me allow you to talk and we can figure this out. Where are my participants? Okay, Robin. So you have an account that is on some sort of form, okay? The user's inputted account on a form in some way, and you're trying to find that inside of your query editor?
Exactly. So if they type in a user account ID, I want to from that form, I want to populate, but there's multiple, I'll have to do this multiple times within a form. But every time that they put in a account ID, I would like for it to search the database and gather that information and populate it on the form.
I see. So they fill in a text box here that's going to have account ID. And then as soon as that gets populated, everything else about the account gets pre-populated in other fields. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, cool. I would not recommend using the query editor for that.
Okay, cool.
Because running queries is not as efficient as running a fetch entities. And because this already exists in the decisions database, you can use a fetch entities instead. So active form flow, fetch account. All right. And then every time there's account box, you can do it when they enter it, when they exit it, clear it, whenever they change the value. I'm just going to do enter for this one, but you can change how that triggers this action. And then you would use a fetch entity step to go over here, grab this. We'll get our account entity if it lets me. There we go. All right. And then we're going to add a fetch criteria. We want the field name account ID to equal whatever the user has typed in, right, in our form data. And that's going to be our account ID text box. And we want the value that they add. We called it account ID, so we get this value right here. All right. Now, results is always going to come as a list, but because you can't have more than one account for each ID, you can always just pass in the first item as well. I'm going to use a set control value, but the problem that I have with that is I don't actually have anything to populate it with real quick. So I'm going to exit. I'm going to save. I'm going to populate the email right here. We're going to drop that down. Save that, exit. Let me grab an account ID real quick for our testing purposes. Over here, security accounts. I'll get the admin account. Why not? Grab that. Get account ID right here. Copy that text. Done. Back to our project. Over here, go to assignment notifications. Not wrong. Wrong one. Go to our assignment over here in our form. We'll go back to our active form flow in our fetch account. We don't need a new one. We're going to edit this one, edit it. And then we're going to use a set control value, which is going to allow us to map that output to the control. So the control value that we want is going to be from our form data. We want to map it to our email text box. And then in that value itself, we are going to pull from our entity results. We just need the first one because there shouldn't be more than one account that has that ID. And then I'm going to go over here and pick email address specifically. Now you can choose whatever other properties. You can use multiple set control values for this, right? But I'm just setting one to show you how this functions. So now if I hit OK, save, exit, policy, wrong one, assignment notifications, show form over here, pick the form that we just edited, go over here, drag that to our end step, and then we're going to debug this. Now, oh, what did I like? Hello? Ignore. Debug, hello? It doesn't like that. Why does it not like that? I think it's something with our form. Does it not have an outcome button? No, it does have an outcome button. It doesn't like these. I'm getting rid of these. We're going to save that, exit. Give it a moment. It just wants to be a little slow. Okay. So debug now, and here we go. I'm going to paste in this account ID. And then in the background, we had a rule that ran. It didn't get any results for that. Interesting. It didn't like that. Did we not pass in anything? Did I not hit enter? Ah, here we go. That's what it was. I didn't enter. So now that I've entered it in, it just ran again. My account ID has fetched that particular account, right? There's only one account that has that. And then we passed in that email address. Where'd it go? Right here. Email address into our form control over here. And you can pass in more fields into the other controls that you create.
That's perfect. Thank you so much.
Sure thing. All right. Thankfully, I see some other things in the QA, but it doesn't look like any of them are questions. So with that being said, I think we're going to wrap this up now. I appreciate you all for attending and was glad to address these. Where do we go? Jeffrey, I will look into that Azure queue and see if I can give you an update on that. And that will be what my homework is. So yeah, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And it's going to be Jared leading y'all off tomorrow. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thanks.